Okay, folks, this is Ben Gessel, kind of part two of what we're talking about here. Um, I'm going to get to some shopping stuff here in a bit. But this is where ultimately where it's all going, of course. Um, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that it's ending with all these kind of see. I'm going to show you guys all these plant families that we just. Oh my gosh, man! I'm not going to try pronouncing some of these guys. Takasie, I mean, and like over here. These guys, Ranunculus, the buttercup. Anyway, yeah. Cassava is over. Some of this stuff is tropical, of course. This is Brazilian tapioca, by the way, for the Euphorbiaceae next to the cassava. But lemon verbena, Verbeniaceae, whatever. Capers, the Capendaceae. Anyway, so we were just kind of finishing up with all those random things. I was just about to get to the animal foods here. And of course, honey. We know honey has carbs, antioxidants, heals burns and wounds, many other things. But honey doesn't have. Honey isn't exactly broccoli, or it's not exactly eggs, but it's it's got some good stuff to it. A little bit sugary, but better than regular. Certainly better than regular white sugar. That's for darn sure. But so up to this point, we're talking, for the most part, we're talking about foods that are fairly affordable, definitely very affordable for many instances. A lot of vegetables, most vegetables, beans, seeds. Vegetables, beans, seeds, some fruits can be really, really cheap. And then some of that stuff can get pricey. Of course, talking about cashews and pistachios, get a little pricier. Hazelnuts, definitely. But some fruits, depending on if they're in season or depending on other stuff, berries can be a little bit pricey. But for the most part, talking about cheaper stuff. Now, these, of course, animal foods we know are by nature going to be a little bit pricier, but we know the cheap ones. We know that we like our cheap eggs and we like our cheap chicken, right? Try to stay in budget. And turkey and stuff. Chicken, eggs, turkey. And then, a few of the things, fortunately are cheaper. We come across. It's just that, as we know, when it comes to cheap food, that's in the animal food range and dairy as well, we're going to get some lower quality. So, it's just what I know. If everybody, we all sound like broken records, I know, but the more, how can I put this? Before I get into all these different things here, the more that we have plant foods, it'll help health-wise, it'll help budget-wise, and it'll help. We get a wide variety of plant foods. It'll lessen the need for having a bunch of this stuff. But this stuff is still important in its own arena, I guess you could say. It's just, it really is still the secondary kind of food. It really is. But, it's great for keeping you full for a while, that's for sure. And muscle fuel stuff. We know about the protein thing for sure. And brain health and all that stuff. Okay, so I mentioned salmon in particular. Salmon is huge. Huge in fish. I mean, like, on this page, the only things I have highlighted really are nori seaweed, of course, Fabaceae, the beans in general, right? Pretty important. But salmon. Salmon is the one pricier food that I think I want everybody on Earth to be able to eat. It is the fish of fishes. But there's many other really tasty fish, don't get me wrong. I love crab. It's just really expensive. And you can see there's so many different kinds of fish. There's, along with salmon, there's cod, mahi-mahi, trout, shrimp, clams, oysters, mussels. I didn't mention mussels, right? There's pike, and there's pollock and flounder and things I haven't been mentioned on here. Of course, scallops, lobster, crab, tuna, halibut, rockfish, eel, mackerel, herring, sardines, anchovies. Many, many others I'm not mentioning because I'm just the sturgeon, right? I just had sturgeon for the first time a while back. And of course, you have things like caviar, which are really expensive, right? And you have sushi, and you have all the stuff that the little fish eggs that have in sushi, and many other things. Squid and octopus over in Japan, yeah. So okay, well, iodine is huge with seafood, but just like with seaweed, with seafood, iodine is the nutrient we want. One of them. I'm looking at salmon mainly here with vitamin A, vitamin D, protein, healthy fats, vitamin B6, magnesium, cobalamin, a little bit of vitamin C even, right? That's wow, and some protein and potassium. And the other types of fish probably won't stack up quite as amazingly as salmon, but will be pretty similar. But won't probably have so much of the vitamin D, not so much of the other stuff, But so salmon's amazing. And up to this point, all these different kinds of plant foods, that should constitute the majority of what we're eating. When we go shopping, probably 3/4 of the things on our list, at least 3/4 should be plant foods. And of those plant foods, you want probably a good chunk of those, even up to half of those plant foods, to be vegetables. Or let's just say lower GI fruits and things like that, maybe some avocado and stuff. So at least half of the plant foods that way. But so yeah, these are expensive. Fish is expensive. It is important to get your minerals, but the question is how much of those minerals do you really need? And you need iodine. So it's great to get some salmon, but salmon's expensive. So save some room in your budget for salmon. Is all I'm saying. I'm saying this to myself too, of course. Don't get the fish sticks, although they're really cheap, unless you have a huge family and you're really on a budget. Just not going to have as much of that vitamin D there, not so much. Okay, eggs. Eggs. Oh, thank goodness for eggs. The eggs are cheap, right? Even if you get to the pasture raised, they're more expensive. They're still pretty affordable. Thank goodness for eggs. Eggs have protein, vitamin A, B6, vitamin D, cobalamin, iron, calcium, B5, B12, B2, selenium, folate, healthy fats, protein, lutein, zeaxanthin, and probably some other things I didn't mention as well. The thing about, of course, animal foods, they don't have fiber. So, again, probably a good idea not to overdo them. But with eggs are the food that helps you build muscle easiest. They are the muscle food. The body absorbs more of an egg's protein, muscle building stuff, than more with the egg than any other kind of animal food. So, yeah, that's like your number one complete protein animal food type of thing is eggs. Fish are great too for all the minerals and omega-3s and all that stuff, fatty acids. Anyway, love that egg. Eggs are great. Duck eggs are a little pricey, but they're really awesome too. You never can find them, but they're a little bit pricey. Poultry, chicken and turkey. That's what's for dinner. Really. I mean, poultry is like the go-to animal protein for many of us. A lot of the time, just because it's cheap, right? Even the organic stuff is still pretty affordable. That stuff is, of course, protein, obviously. Healthy fats, vitamin A, B6, a little bit of calcium, a little bit. Cobalamin, magnesium, iron, potassium, B12, tryptophan, choline, zinc, copper, selenium, phosphorus. All kinds of stuff. And many other things too, again. But chicken and turkey, that's what's for dinner, perhaps. But yeah, at least probably half the days of the week, I'm guessing, for a lot of you guys. Some form or other of poultry. Or at least a few times a week. This is probably the world over almost. If not poultry, then eggs or cheaper fish in some places. I mean, if the fish is cheap, shrimp is pretty cheap in some places in Asia, I've heard. But anyway, so getting, of course, to our last few addendums. Meat, red meat, right? Beef, lamb, bison, duck, boar, venison, caribou, so on and so forth, right? Antelope, game meats, rattlesnake, I don't know, rabbit, or all that stuff. Well, we're talking about definitely lots of protein. Complete proteins, heme iron, right? Heme iron, yep. Zinc, cobalamin, B6, definitely lots of B12. Some fats, hopefully I think I'm mostly healthy fats. Yeah, it's not as bad as many people think. If you're getting grass-fed meat, it's always going to be a better situation than if it's conventional, of course. Selenium, B3, B1, B2, so all like the B vitamins. The B vitamins are covered with red meat. A little bit of vitamin D, in fact. And also potassium, phosphorus. But the healthier the cow, or the cattle, the more that cattle's having a good time, the more you're going to get some of that good stuff. And some kind of conjulic, linoleic acid, some big, healthy sounding acid. Anyway. Well, so with red meats, yeah. It's one of the hot button topics still because it's so tasty, but yet everyone says it's so bad, but yet people say it's so good. Sorry about this, folks. I'm just trying to. The debate will continue to rage on, just like with some of these other kinds of foods, and it really comes down to how much we eat of it, and what the quality of it. Right? I'd say if you have more than a few servings of conventional meat a week, it isn't going to be your friend in the long term. If you have more than a few servings of grass-fed beef or higher quality beef, it's hard to say, but I think you're probably going to need to cut down even on that stuff in old age. So, I mean, red meat is very dense food. It is the one protein I keep hearing a lot of folks saying, don't eat that stuff. Don't overdo it. But yet, it has a lot of great things about it too. A lot of zinc. So I think it's just, a question of how much you eat of it. Because as Dr. Hyman mentions, and I haven't mentioned too much about what doctors have said about these different things, but Dr. Mark Hyman? Condiment. It is a condiment. It should be a condiment. If it is the main course, probably don't have it as the main course too often during the week. Or if you have a week that's really meaty, have the next month be not as meaty. But very dense food, folks. Very, very dense. I forgot to put pork. Pork should be on here, but pork is in this, boar, I guess. Pork is definitely in the meat range. And, of course, last but not least, last few items, number 91, dairy. Of course, salt after that. So dairy, some people say it's great. Maybe not great, but okay. If it's grass-fed, right? And a lot of people are saying, not so much. No. Dr. Hyman, no. Well, I don't do dairy for my own reasons, because casein does funny things to my brain. That enzyme is digesting it. But, I'll have ghee butter. I'll have ice cream on occasion. But that milk, yogurt, cheese thing, that's not really me. If you guys do dairy, just make sure it's grass-fed, and the grass-fed stuff's very expensive. So maybe just have less of it. Maybe make sure that what you're eating is grass-fed. And if it's conventional, treat it more like ice cream, because it isn't really amazing for you. But of course, it has a lot of nutrients, just like red meat. Vitamin A, vitamin D, calcium, protein, etc. Some people will still swear by dairy. They say it's very important to have some dairy. I don't think it is. I'm just saying, probably a good idea. Dairy is not the main course. That's the best way of putting it. If cheese is is your main course in any of your meals, maybe you don't have it as the main course for the next few weeks. Kind of thing. The French know how to do things well that way, I think. But the stinky cheese thing, by the way, yeah, there's that vitamin K2 thing. I know about that stuff. The natto thing. I'm doing supplements, by the way, for K2. I don't know how you French guys can handle that stinky cheese, that sort of thing. Italians too, but a few other folks, Belgians, Germans, but Stilton cheese in England. But the stinky cheese is where it's at, nutrient wise, as long as it's not too fatty, as long as not too much of it, but because it has that K2 and some other stuff to it that's really healthy for But but cheese is still cheese. It's still rather fatty, and it should be treated more like red meat. But that being said, it's the really, our really super cheap Velveeta stuff and the Kraft singles cheese that is honestly, well, yeah. Anyway, I've had cheddar cheese. Cheddar cheese is definitely, when I was younger, it was a little bit better. But I like them. If I have cheese, it has to be mild, man. It has to be mild. It has to be. Okay, salt. I know there's the milk and yogurt. I know for the cheap proteins. You guys don't need to do that stuff so much. Don't have dairy as your main complete protein source. If you do, you need to be like a ovo vegetarian. No, I'm sorry, I meant lacto vegetarian. Anyway, and of course salt. Everybody has different thoughts about salt. I personally think salt is kind of neutral, but we probably overdo it. It's a seasoning. It should never be something. Should never be a very high priority. And Himalayan pink salt is a good idea, perhaps, but I haven't seen enough of the science to back up treating Himalayan pink salt very super seriously. But it's a nice little addendum. Those trace minerals, I suppose, are good for you. Just, you know. So this all being said, I wanted to get at, because we are trying to be healthy. We're trying to live a long life, happy life. And we need to make decisions all the time regarding what we're going to be eating that week. And again, going through this list, I'm kind of showing you highlighted areas, what not only things I tend to get more often, but what is just more available where I live in Washington. So things like, let's see here, sorry. We get a lot of green veggies up here, and we get some seeds, and we get some herbs, and we get some little bit of avocado. We get the Rosaceae family. We get a lot of these temperate fruits, Ericaceae, blueberries, and we get the spices. Spices last; they're very durable. The walnuts and stuff, and we get the sea veggies, especially from Asia and other places, beans, grains a little bit, and we get a lot of fish up here in Washington, along with the eggs and other stuff. So, as you're planning your shopping list, emphasize again the top guys I mentioned here. Those salad greens and those cooked greens that are like the brassicas and the china pod stuff. Salad greens, the cucurbitaceae, the apiaceae, and asteraceae, and lamiaceae. It's nice to include in fresh herbs in there too. Try to have that stuff as one of the things that you never forget to get at a grocery store, because then you can eat all the other stuff, all the other plant foods. If you're getting all whole foods, you'd be in great shape. And you can get all the other stuff wherever you live. Some of you guys are in the tropics, you're going to emphasize more the tropical fruits and cassava or taro stuff more, but maybe some of those sweet potatoes and yams. But so maybe millet or something. But then if you have a fair bit of plant foods, by the time you get down to here, just have this as like, okay, if I'm really hungry, what's a good calorie source? Because your oils, nuts, and meat, poultry, fish, egg are really calorie dense. They'll fill you up, but it's really easy to overdo this stuff. So always have your plant foods as your top priority. Animal foods is your secondary priority. Try to get higher quality animal foods if you can. Talk to you guys soon. Oh, leave me thoughts and comments below. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.